Hello everyone, my name is Erickson and today I'm going to talk about how Hearts of Iron 4 can be used to teach history. So, some background information. Hearts of Iron 4 is a grand strategy game which set in the stage of the pre-World War II to the World War II era, from 1946 to 1945. It is a game made by the Paradox Interactive, which players can choose their own country to play as, for example, the United States, Germany, or the Soviet Union. So learning history is basically understanding the causes, process, and the results. The Hearts of Iron 4 basically focus on the causes and the process of World War II. In the game, it started at 1946, which some pre-World War II tension can be built up during this campaign. And for example, the Vietnam remilitarization see that Germany re-enter Vietnam, which is a demilitarized zone during that time. And in 1947, the Marco Polo Bridge incident happened, which marked the beginning of the war between Japan and China, and the Asian theater began. In 1948, answer happened, and Germany annexed Austria during that time, and the Munich Conference between Germany and United Kingdom set up the fate for the Czechoslovakia. In 1949, Germany demanded Danzig from Poland, which is refused it, and this marked the beginning of the war. So how this game illustrated those events in the history? It uses a system called focus tree. Focus tree is basically a path a nation will take during the gameplay, and the AI will also have different choice between it. If historical AI is set, they will always take certain path. And there's some decision menu which the user can interact with that provide some more small interaction during the war or the pre-war. In the nation selection page, it also provides some basic information for the player, and which can help them better understand the situation before the 1936. So in this game, some small decision or the changes we need to some really big one. So it is also known as a butterfly effect. So this example of focus tree, it is for the Germany, and it can show that one path can lead from one event to another, and there's some different path. For example, the one path is basically what happened in the real life, and the opposite path provide the player to play as in a alternate history. So each of them can provide different uh, bonus, and AI will react differently from it. So we can also know why some location is more important than the others in history, and this can be some strategic important location, or it is some location full of resources. There are five type of resources, six type of resources basically presented in the game, which oil is super important because it is used for the motorized the troops, aircraft to fight with, and it is also one of the reasons why Germany and declared war on the Soviets and the Japan declared war on United States during this time. Those lack of the resources can really help everyone understand why those events happen. So player can also understand geopolitics and during this time this play, and because so the objective of the game is to win and kind of like change the course of the history, and geopolitics can help you to know uh, who you can be aligned with and who will not. And the game presented with different ideology for different country, and the player interaction can have meaningful effects on those uh, geopolitics and the alternate history path. Some research that I did is from Spring, which is uh, which explain how uh, history is basically presented in video games, It discusses how video games can help learning history and the shortcoming of it, and it uses multiple games to support its claims. For example, it used Assassin's Creed to describe the coding, and Crusader King 2 and European Universalis to discuss culture and conflict. So, Watson is also another case study that I looked at. It is a case study that on the high school student, which teach them video games, the group helping and the teacher interaction, really so that it can be a good way to learn history. So some Josh principle presented here is identity. The player takes on the role of the national leader and lead the nation to the path they want, and it has to understand the limitation of the nation during that time, and also know the ambition and the reason why they are going to the war, and this can really help them to understand the objective, the motive of different of every action done in the history. So, for example, my experience, I tried Italy as Mussolini during that time, and and in that time, the game presents some basic information which state that the Italy kind of want to expand, and during World War II they did not get what they deserved it, they think deserved it, and so Mussolini rise to power after that, and that's some shortcoming for Italy. It does not have enough oil, and there are multiple theaters to handle. So I have many different defeats, one in this game, and before I reach my first victory. And those defeat one can be viewed as present frustration, and so the goal of the game is to win, but the definition of winning is ambiguous in this game because each one can have different goal. For example, at Greek you can try to reform Byzantium, and as Germany you can try to conquer the world, and each nation you play as have different goal. So another principle that is presented is skill as strategy, which because there are many different systems to handle, and it's like real life you need to handle many different things, and you really need to multitask in this game. And because the game has many different systems and it's really hard, and so managing failure and frustration is really important. So some game strategy that can be taken is Biscuit and Trench Warfare, which is both presented in the World War II. One is by Germany and one is by French, and different nations can have different tactics. So some problem of this game. So the AI designer is not really very good at some point because some action can be exploited by the player, and the game really have some hard learning curve, which kind of make it a hardcore game. It needs to have totally different experience in multiplayer. So it is a good game to teach people who already have some interest in history. It, on the other hand, is terrible if it is for for the people who don't really have an interest in history, and it takes a lot of time to learn. And the feedback for failure is very limited in this game, which is the shortcoming of this game. And thank you very much.